Hi, my name is Daniel Freddie Carter, and this is a video that I'm basically going to explain what SEO Stack is in proportion to Search Console, how SEO Stack can be used, and to answer some of the questions that I've been asked on a regular basis. So SEO Stack goes live this week. What I wanted to do was try and explain a little bit more about SEO Stack, the data, and why would you use this when you have Search Console. Obviously, SEO Stack is a paid tool, Search Console is not. And then to explain a little bit more about alternatives and where SEO Stack itself is set aside. So the first thing to explain is that SEO Stack is a suite of tools. It's not just a replication of Google Search Console. However, to explain Search Console, obviously you have an API and you can get that data out. SEO Stack, how SEO Stack works is that SEO Stack is when you add a website, it gets that data over API and then we store and reprocess that data. So for example, whenever you interact with SEO Stack, it's not communicating with GSC in real time. So I need to make that absolutely clear. This is not a hook-in. This isn't sitting on top of GSC. This is a standalone product that is reusing GSC data. Now, a couple of things in response to that. First of all, can we see your data? The answer to that is no. So all of your data that is imported into SEO Stack remains your data and your data only. We cannot see it. We do not access it. It is completely fragmented and encrypted so that your data is protected. So whatever sites you import, that is your data and your data only. And the way that the data is stored is that it's chunked. So that because it's chunked data, it means that not all of your data is put in one environment. So what I want to do is talk a little bit just primarily about the interface and some of the differences. So once you add your website to SEO Stack will go and get the data over Search Console API. We download that data, it's chunked between different servers. And then obviously what we do is we have an interface that allows you to access and interact with that data as if you were in Search Console. However, because we have all of the data, that's allowed us to do lots of amazing things with that data that other tools can't do. Now, the other thing as well is that it means your data is retained until you want that data deleted. What that means is that Search Console naturally every day is overwriting a previous day's worth of data in the past. That means in Search Console, the most you can ever get is 16 months. That is the furthest back that you can go. Okay. However, in SEO Stack, we can go back up to 5 years. Now, that's not retrospectively. So you can't add a website, import 16 months of data and expect 5 years. However, what it does do is it will get your 16 months of data, it will store that, and then every day from that day onwards, it will append another day's worth of data. That will give you, so if you signed up to SEO Stack today, in a month from now, you would have 17 months from data. In 2 months from now, you would have 18 months of data. And every bit of data remains accessible. Okay, so diving in. So we've tried to keep the interface similar so that you don't feel like you're in an alien environment. Now, it doesn't look like there's a great deal of change, but there's actually quite a few little bits under the hood that separate SEO Stack from Search Console. So I'm going to do the same exercise in both, and then it can give you some context and idea of exactly how this works. So the first thing is obviously the date picker. So you'll see here on both, we have our date pickers. Now I have to point this out. SEO Stack's design came before Search Console had this UI update. Okay, so we had this modernized look first. Now you'll see, obviously, you've got last 16 months and custom, but in SEO Stack, you have something called first data point. So first data point is as far back as the data will let you go. So if you had SEO Stack for a year, you would have 16 plus 12 months. So you would have 28 months. So if you clicked on first data point, that will give you the first data point. Now, if we go back, just bear in mind, I haven't had this Orangeries UK project in SEO Stack for very long. So we don't have much additional data, but we do have additional data. So watch this. So the earliest we can see in GSC is the 23rd of Feb. And here we can see the 7th of Feb. So I added this like 2 weeks ago. So if we were to go back, if we were to select a custom time frame, okay, so let's say we went from the 2nd of Feb. Okay, so it's saying the 8th of Feb actually. So the 8th of Feb 2023, and we go to the 23rd. I need to make sure that that's set to 2023. Okay, so, sorry, 23rd of Feb. Okay, I'm not making a great deal with this. Right, so, there we go. Right. So this data here that I'm showing you is data that's otherwise gone forever. So this data, I couldn't see this any longer in GSC, but I can see it here. Okay, and look, you see here we've got 4,000 queries, and we can interact with this historic data exactly like it was GSC, and that's the benefit to us storing and providing that architecture. So your data is there, and I must say this as well, for any of you that would love to use SEO Stack but you're concerned about data, we do offer an enterprise version which is self-hosted, which means the data goes on your own server should you wish. You pay us a fee for us to set that platform up for you, and then a monthly fee for the app, but obviously you can store all your own data. So this is legacy data that's otherwise gone from GSC, and again you can access every bit of it, so there's no limitations anymore. Okay, so the next thing, so we can obviously see that over time. So the next one is filtering. Okay, so I want to do all the filters containing the word orange, because it's an orangery site, so they have orangery and orangeries. Okay, let's do the same in here. Okay, so we've added a filter. Our query contains orange, and in here we can see 1,801, but in GSC we can see 1,000. Okay, so we can access all 1,000 of those queries. So I'm just going to skip through really quickly. I could get to it quicker by changing rows per page, but I'm not conventional. So when we get to 1,000, so this is typically where GSC die out, and then in here we can continue. Okay, so you can access every query. You can't do that in GSC. Now the next thing in GSC that you can't do is you can't zoom in and out and interact with the data like you can here. So if you're like trying to pinpoint something on an exact date with average position or something like that, it's easier like this. Okay, so we've added the partial query. Now, let's say I want to get rid of anything with the word cost in it. Okay, so in here, I'm going to do queries not containing cost. And in GSC, I'm going to do the same, new query, but you can't. So, in GSC, you cannot layer queries. You can apply regex, where you can include things, but you can't multi-layer filters. So this is another advantage. So you can see here, I've managed to get all of the queries without the word cost. So this has the ability, we can continue to add it up. So we can add another query. So we could get rid of cheap. And if we wanted to say, I don't know, let's say we wanted to get rid of everything with company as well. So we can do that. So you can layer your filters. You can do it with pages, you can do it with countries, you can do it with devices, but you cannot do this in GSC. Okay. Next thing. Pre-filtering. So, at the time of recording this video, there's actually loads of new filters. They're not available in the test environment that I'm showing you now, but they will be available very shortly. So basically, we've added in loads of new filters that include HTTP status, page indexing status, loads of custom regex libraries for lots of different filters. There's even filters for intent. So you can actually view your GSC data by intent. I will do an updated version of those when those become available. But you can see here that we have URLs with trailing slash, without trailing slash, www or non-www. So I can click on that for this domain. I can see that there aren't any URLs without www. If there are any subdomains, so we can apply these filters, www.urls, without trailing slash, and so forth. So you have all of those. You don't have any of that in GSC. Next, as we go across, you can filter by charts, you can filter by clicks or impressions. So if you want to see all of the pages that generated a certain amount of clicks, you can specify that. You don't have that in GSC. Algo updates. So we can see algo updates on top. So it will allow us, this is the staging environment, so I haven't put anything in there. But on the live environment, it will look something like this. And bear with me. Okay, so this is the actual live environment at the minute. So the algo updates look like this. So if you click on them, it gives you an overview. What we will be doing is we will be providing video recordings. So we'll have a video in that box. It will be me demonstrating anything that I can see as a result of a core update, findings, things that could help you as an SEO make better decisions as what to make of the core update. Okay, moving on. So we have our algo updates, so we can look at the algo updates over the top of our GSC, and we also have the annotation system. So I'll get into that in a minute. I'm just going to work my way down through the features and functionality. But we have the annotation system here, and these annotations basically are you annotating the work that you've done on your website with that annotation appearing over the top of your GSC data. The export functionality. So we export to Google Sheets, we export to CSV and PDF. Now, we've got 26,000 queries here. So if I now click export to Google Sheets, you'll see I get a pop-up. So I can actually customize what I want in my export, unlike GSC. So if we select queries, I can select max, and you'll see 26,244 queries. So I can click export. That will now give me an export of all 26,000 queries. So again, as you will all know with GSC, if you click export, you'll get the usual 1,000 queries, and that's it. Okay. So there's your 1,000 queries, and that's all you'll ever get. 1,000 queries, 1,000 pages. So not the same. Whereas in here, if I open this, this is our export, and you'll see all 26,000 queries from that export. So our exports are unlimited. I think there's a hard limit on Google Sheets, but you can export to CSV as well. But we also have PDF. So you can actually export to PDF, put what you want in it. I'm not going to do max, I'll just do 1,000 queries. And you can click export, and it will generate a PDF. And again, the export functionality in GSC doesn't allow you to have a PDF. Now, some points here to note as well is that obviously SEO Stack is evolving like any tool. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to have the PDF export functionality with the option to specify whether you want an annotation summary at the bottom. So it will give you your GSC snapshot in a PDF form, with the annotations, with an explanation below of what work has been done for those annotations. So when that's ready, I will get a little notification here. So next, again, we have our clicks, impressions, CTR, and average position, just as we do here. But we have the ability to switch our view between day and month. So this can make it a lot easier to ascertain trajectory. So we can actually see the total clicks by month when we go over. So you can see 5,900 clicks, 5,500 clicks, and so forth, 5,300 clicks. So rather than looking at a day view, you can look at a month view, just as you would. Well, you can't do that in GSC, obviously, but there you go. So next, so we'll come back to the annotations because that's like the most detailed part. But basically, if we go down, we have queries, pages, countries, devices, dates. We have all of that, but we don't have search appearance yet. Search appearance is in its own place in the menu. And that's because we're doing some really cool smart AI stuff with it, which is why it's not in the initial tab. But if you look here, obviously, as I've shown you, you can access every query, you can access every page. So if you've got 10,000 pages, you can get to 10,000 pages. But the lazy search is what really sets this aside. So we can do a search for pretty much anything. So in this one, for example, I'm going to put how. And that's just found 1,326 queries. Why? 68. When? Oh, it's because I'm over the 1,000 limit. Let's go back. Okay. So repeating those searches. So we've got when. We could do cheap. 197. 418. So the lazy search is basically rapid. So you can filter through thousands of queries in less than a second. And obviously because of the fact that you can export it, you can interact with all of it. So again, because we give you the whole query set, you can filter. So this is like our lazy search basically, which is, you know, stupidly quick. So, you know, we've got 1,326 how queries here. And then exactly like you would in GSC, okay, so exactly like in GSC, we can click and we can see the data, but here we can switch it to a month view so we can get a better view holistically. So for example, it's really off-putting when you've just got such a fragmented average position line. Sometimes, you know, stuff is in and out the index. So being able to switch between a month view and a day view obviously makes it a lot easier to understand, you know, what's actually going on. And again, because we have all of the historic data, even when that data is long gone, we've got it. So you could backtrack and view Orangery performance, query performance, whatever performance you wanted, you could backtrack past 16 months. Okay, so that's the general interface. So the next one, and this is the one that is obviously, you know, if we're talking about little bits of data access, you might think, okay, well, you know, how does that really justify the cost? But it's not that. So basically, the premise is that most SEO tools rely on third-party data, scraping the web. So you get tools, they're out there, they're scraping the internet, and they are giving you snapshots of information based on scraped data. Now, scraped data is problematic because there are millions, tens of millions of queries out there that don't make it into tools, maybe because they don't have any perceived search volume. But the fact is that for so many sites that I've done SEO for over the years, they always have huge zero search volume queries. So this is why, this is like the premise of SEO Stack is to, number one, give you all of the data in an interface that you're familiar with. And then two, now we've got all of this data, let's do some intelligent things with it. And that's exactly the premise of where SEO Stack is going. So first of all, so you're on your website And we know that there's a massive disconnect in the SEO world between when you do something and understanding what impact did this change actually have. So here's exactly what I'm going to show you. Right, so, you know, most SEOs will have a workflow, project management tool, series of places where they log, you know, we did this on this URL, we did that. But there's a disconnect, and this is where we aim to solve the problem. So first of all, so on this page here, so we've selected our page, and we can see the data. Now, let's say that we decide, you know what, let's do some more work. Let's improve this page. Or maybe it's a page that's in decline or query in decline. It doesn't really matter what it is. So there's various auditing tools in SEO Stack, and we'll go through them. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this page, and the annotation system basically is a half-integrated project management system. So we have a project management tool in build that's going to basically bridge the gap between SEO tasks, works, workflow, and Search Console. It's all going to be connected. So let's say you come in here and you say, okay, well, look, you know, we've got this page, and, you know, we've revamped the content. So let's say, you know, we did an audit of the content. We found that there were missing opportunities in terms of NLP, topical coverage. Maybe we readjusted the content so that we put the most important information at the front. There's going to be loads of tools that help you do this within SEO Stack. But for now, I'm just going to simulate like we already know what needs doing and we've done it. So we tell SEO Stack explicitly what it is that we've done. So we made changes to the content to firstly, improve above the folds descriptions and a summary table of what we improved user experience. Excuse my spelling. I've got a new keyboard, so you probably will see me make the odd spelling mistake. We improve user experience by breaking up the content and adding in lots of new images and a comparison table. We used also asked, which will be integrated into SEO Stack shortly, to identify all the questions that people are asking and made sure our content was comprehensive. Okay, right, so we need to tell SEO Stack, give it a description, you know, and you can do anything because obviously you can add in images, you can embed content, so forth. So it supports all content formatting. You can basically just explain what it is that you've done. So you can select here, you know, whatever you might have done. And these will auto-populate in the live environment if the API keys are provided. So we provide various APIs for different tools like InLinks, Ahrefs, and Majestic. But let's say, you know, we're using our own content tool and it's giving you a score of 90. Again, I have to put nuances here. Content scores and SEO are disconnected, but you can use content score perhaps at an NLP level to set a benchmark for your testing. Okay. Now, when you select this, email me if there's significant changes. This is where SEO Stack, Big Data, and AI all converge to track the impact of the things that you are doing. Now, unlike traditional SEO testing models that look to A/B test and look for click changes and things like that, this is a different system. Okay, this is not just looking at clicks, because you could launch an experiment on a domain, okay, on a page that all of a sudden has a massive seasonality spike. Okay, that experiment could say, you know, these changes correlate with amazing, with amazing growth. This is a great change, but actually it might have been the seasonality. So you can't really rely on, say, just clicks and impressions as a comparison metric. You need to look further afield, and that's where we come in, because we have all of the data. We can start looking at multiple touch points. We can look at the volume of served queries, the volume of total queries, lost queries, new queries, average positions for new queries, average positions for queries that are in decline. We've got loads of data. We take all of that data. We use AI to analyze the change in data in proportion to what you told SEO Stack you did, and then we work out a correlative outcome as to whether or not that change has been positive or negative. Okay, so I've told SEO Stack what I've done. Now, we have an author system, okay? Now, this we'll get into shortly, but the author system allows you to have a team of people who are doing work, whether they're writers, whether they're developers, SEOs, it doesn't matter. SEO Stack allows you to invite any team members, and when you invite these people, we'll provide a top-level academy. It will take them minutes to learn how to log in and add their annotation, and that's all they really need to do. So you're going to say who did the change, and I'll explain why this exists in a minute. And then we're going to set the date that we made the change. So let's say we did this in June. Okay. So I think it's this one. I think I already created another annotation. There you go. There's our annotation. Okay. So once you've added this and you've selected that, what's going to happen is, even if you retrofit an annotation going back a year, what's going to happen is SEO Stack is going to compare data before and data post. So even if you backdate an annotation, it's going to wait to get 30 days, 60 days, 90 days of data post when you added the annotation. So if you added a change to your website in September last year and you go back and retrofit stuff that you did, all it's going to do is note that, but then 30 days from the day that you add the annotation, it will then use that following data to compare to historic to work out trends. So what's going to happen is that over time, you're going to end up with something like this. So this is a client, one of our clients that, you know, we've been using SEO Stack on now for more than 2 years. We initially started with version 1. Now, obviously, we're using version 2 of SEO Stack. But this whole AI annotation system has been in play for a while. It's obviously improved significantly. But this is an example of where we've been doing things, and we've used the AI annotation tracking. And out of that, we've been able to successfully identify very quickly the things that, you know, are working and things that don't seem to have any correlative benefit. And with that, we've obviously been able to achieve some really good, strong growth. So the annotation system will allow you to come in, log all the things that you're doing. But, and this is the next part. So once you've started adding your annotations, you will get email notifications, and you'll get notifications here to say, you know, when it's detected something as a result of the work that you've done. When it's identified whether the correlation is positive or negative, you will get it in your dashboard, which I can't show you now because it's still in development, but it will be there soon. But the notifications and emails are there. But you'll get a notification and you'll get an email to say, "Hi John," if that's your name. As a result of the annotation that you've logged, we've seen a positive correlative impact in relation to the change that you did, and obviously the URL. And then it'll ask if you want to continue with the annotation tracking or whether you want to leave it, and then you can decide whether or not you continue with that work. Now, your annotations will all be logged. So when you're within your project, when you select your project, you'll go down to annotations, and all of the annotations that you've created will be in here. So it'll tell you when it was created, who the author of it is, if there's an alert set for significant change. And then obviously all of your metrics there. And then you can see what has been done. And then you've got the ability to export this. So you can export it to a Google Sheet. We've also got the ability, you can add an annotation from within the annotation project. And what you can also do is you can bulk import annotations. So what you can do is you can export your annotations, and then with the same template, you can actually edit the annotation content, and then you can import it. So if you wanted to add annotations at bulk, you would be able to do that. So here's the export. So what we're going to be able to do with this moving forwards, and you can see obviously all your filters, all your information is there. What we're doing moving forwards is we're building the whole reporting system, okay? And we're building a project management system. So the project management system is fundamentally going to allow you to have all your SEO tasks, whether it's auditing, whether it's fixing, whether it's addressing specific things from a dev content link perspective, SEO testing perspective. The project management system is going to house all of these tasks, and it's going to be infused with AI and connected to your GSC and GA4 data. So here you'll be able to view all your annotations by time frame. Okay, so you can select what's done in the last 28 days. This is really good if you just want a quick export that goes out to clients. Now we are going to be providing smart reporting tools and rank intelligence. With reporting, okay, we're going to report on all of the work that's been done, and we're going to use AI to summarize impact from all of the annotations that you're adding. So whilst you're busy focusing on your SEO strategy and you're saying to SEO Stack, you know, we did this, we did that, we did this, what's going to happen is SEO Stack is going to keep following all of this for you, and then it's going to take all of the things that you're doing and it's going to bring that to you in a format that you can understand, and it will also give you the opportunity to auto-generate reports for clients that basically say to the client, in June, here are all the annotations that we logged. Here are the results from the previous month's annotations from May. Here are all the things that had a positive correlative output. Here are the things that didn't have a positive outlook. And then what we're also doing, because we're integrating with GA4, we're going to pull in conversion events, revenue. So we're going to look at the impact from the work and its potential impact on ROI. So we're bringing that all in. Now, as far as we're concerned, within GSC, we're pretty much, that's it. So there isn't really anything else that I can go to here that isn't in here. So I've explained the AI annotation system, and we could get more into that, but I'll probably do another video when we've got the next phase of functionality to come out. So obviously in GSC, you know, we do have other things like URL inspection, discover, pages and indexing. So to give you a little bit of context, a lot of these things we are going to have. We've already done page indexing. So this is just going through testing now. So the difference between GSC's one and ours is that every day we're going to maximize the 2000 URL pool limit on data. So if your domain has 10,000 pages and 5,000 of those are not indexed, we will be able to show you all 5,000 that are not indexed, as opposed to here where the data samples are limited to 1,000 URLs. So you'll be able to come into here and you'll be able to go into page indexing, and all of this here, you'll have access to it, but you'll have more of the URLs. And on top of that, we're going to have AI insights. So those AI insights are going to look at your page indexing. It's going to look at HTTP status. Are the pages even active? It's going to look at whether they have internal links. It's going to have a look at how much content they've got. It's going to have a look at whether they were served at all in the index within the last 16 months or within the reporting time frame. And we're going to use AI and insights to get you a better idea of, well, you know, so let's say we've got crawled currently not indexed, which is a key offender for a lot of users, okay? Let's say we've got 10,000 URLs in that because we get all of the data. We can then HTTP check all those URLs. We can internal link check all those URLs. We can go and have a look at the content. We can see if those URLs were dropped because they didn't have any value, because GA4 shows no session data. So all of the things that lead to pages not being indexed because either a lack of value or a cannibalization issue, or all of those things, we are going to solve those problems in SEO Stack. So SEO Stack will give you the data and it will say, here are the things that we've observed that are potentially the reason why your pages are not indexed. And when you resolve them, we're then going to use the push API for page indexing. So we could submit your URLs back to the index, providing you've addressed those. Or we'll provide guidance on making changes to things like crawlability, robots text, disallow for anything that just shouldn't be in there. So we're going to provide all of that as well. We're going to have our own custom core web vitals. So we're going to look at the things that really impact on user experience more than just the arbitrary stuff. So we're going to focus more on things like CLS, which genuinely do provide a more improved user experience when people aren't missing tap targets and all the rest of it. And we are going to have search appearance. So with search appearance, what we're going to do is we're going to look to blend that in with the structured data that we detect, and then we're going to look at structured data performance over time. So we've broken it out into its own section. So for example, just going back to Search Console here. So in Search Console, we have the ability to compare. But what we've done is we've moved compare into its own standalone tool. And there are reasons for that. And that's because we're going to personalize the compare part of the tool so that there are more factors to it. So, for example, if we do compare last 3 months year over year, and we'll do the same here as well. So what we can see, obviously, is we've got the same compared details, but we have algo updates, we have annotations, so we can show annotations. So what you'll see is if an annotation was last year, it will appear inverted. So if, for example, add an annotation, I say, I don't know, updated homepage content. If it's last year, in the last 3 months last year, just putting anything in here now at the minute, you'll see annotations last year versus annotations this year. So you'll see the inverted stuff between them. Okay, so the differences as well, we can switch between a month view and a day view. The month view is better when you're comparing longer time frames, but still there. And you can see, obviously, click differences between now and last year. So you can see both. So here we show the click difference, but what we also do as well is we show the trend. So we have a trend line, just a bit nicer from a visualization perspective. But here's where the beauty happens. So not only do we have our lazy search, which GSE does not have, we have queries and everything, and we have the ability, so we compare across CTR, position, and we show all the trend data. But the where this becomes beneficial is I can generate a click gap in seconds. Okay, so I go up here, I click export Google Sheets, select queries, pages, max, and then export. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing in GSC. I'm going to export this in GSC, and you'll see immediately why there's a benefit. So if we look at GSC, this is our output. And you'll see that even though they show the click difference in GSC, they don't put it as a column. So you manually have to create your own column for click gap. So typically you would do alignment, center, and then you would wrap it. Okay. And then you need to put in your own click gap on the left. And then you need to subtract one from the other to find. So you can see, obviously, when something's had more clicks or where it's had less clicks. Okay. But even so, you know, you've got to do that for impressions, average position. You have to obviously do it yourself. And then you're limited. So it's not limited to the 1,000 rows, but it is limited to the 1,400 query mark. So now if we look in SEO Stack, you'll see it's already here. So we've done it for you, and we've done it across all the columns. So you have impression difference, CTR difference. So if I now select all of these columns and wrap them, okay, and there you'll see your differences. Difference, difference, difference. Okay, so we've done all of that for you. It's ready out of the box. And then you'll see that this is over 16,000 queries as opposed to 1,400. So the benefit here is I can literally click data, create a filter. If that works. Okay, I have to wait a second. Okay, and then I can duplicate this, and then I can just apply a rule: clicks that gained, clicks average position gained. So I could do queries gained. Okay, and then I can just put greater than 0, and then that shows me that, you know, there are 1,500 queries that gained clicks. So we basically provide the difference columns for you, and we provide the full data set. So that's where our advantage is over GSC here. And then obviously, you know, we have the ability to add annotations over the top of it. And again, we can provide all of the filtering and all of the rest of it as well. So you basically have like auto click gap for every query on the domain. Okay, so I mean, in respect of GSC, so some of the other things that we're going to be bringing in. So we're going to be bringing in sitemaps. I don't think we'll be doing removals. We'll be covering these. But then obviously we're going to have a load of other things as well that you don't get with GSC. So think of SEO Stack. SEO Stack is going to be a hybrid tool. Okay. So moving on. So we've gone through all of that. You know, we have our smart AI annotation system and all the rest of it. But we've also then taken all of that data and we've turned it into something that's more viable. So for those of you that have watched my webinars, you'll know that one of the things that I'm a strong advocate in is the principle of query counting. So query counting is a process whereby the volume of queries that a page is served for can be an indicator of perceived page value. The general consensus is that if Google values a piece of content, it's going to serve it for more queries. Okay, there are nuances. You can end up with dilution and other factors, but we'll cover that shortly. Now, what do we compare this data to? Okay, well let's bring in our trusty old friend Ahrefs. We could do it with SEMrush, but we no longer use SEMrush. But let's take a look at Orangeries UK, and then I'll show you what this data is likened to. Okay, so first of all, if we look at Orangeries UK in Ahrefs, you'll see obviously that these third-party tools have their own keyword counts. So this is basically Ahrefs obviously scrapes the web from hundreds of millions of keywords, and every time obviously they scrape a keyword, they find where if a site appears for that keyword, they log the keyword against the page. That's how they do it. But this is where the problem is, okay? And this, you know, don't get me wrong, like I use Ahrefs, whilst I have qualms with them and the platform, mainly down to the previous quota system credits. It is a great platform, but I think there are things that people really need to be careful with. So I see a lot of SEOs in the community using it, That's fine. But when you get to understand the size of the data discrepancies, that's when you really need to exercise caution. So let's take a look, right? So according to Ahrefs, we have 2,233 scraped keywords. But if we look at the actual amount of data, the domain has 26,502 queries. So you can see it here. 26,000 queries, not 2,200 queries. Okay, so there's a tenfold difference there in the data. Now, what our query counts are likened to is this here, this functionality. Okay, and this is for the domain. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a like for like. So that URL that we just did the analysis for, not the analysis, sorry, the annotation. So we're going to take this because it's a strong click driver. I'm going to go to the query row count tool, and we can see in the last 3 months, this URL was served for 5,652 queries. If I extend the data time frame, we can see 12,000 queries. Okay, let's now look at the data. So effectively, according to Ahrefs, this page has 304 keywords. Okay, but we know better. So we know obviously that there are 12,000 queries, not 300, 12,000 queries. So the whole point here is that, you know, people need to be seriously careful by where they make their decisions on data. Because if you're basing your SEO strategy on third-party data, you need to be very careful. Because by logic, the topic that we picked didn't have a lot of search volume behind it. But somehow there's 12,000 queries. So there clearly is value behind it. And we can liken that to zero search volume queries, ZSQ. Right, so this URL, if we look at the principle of query counting, the query count is how many queries was that page served for on any one day. It doesn't have to have generated clicks, just has to have been served one or more impression. So we can see that here. Okay, now the general trend is that if content is of value, it will be served for more. That's the general consensus. It's not a blanket statement. There are times when a page might have a very narrow band of queries because the niche doesn't have, you know, a vast array of queries. But the lack of query growth is not an indicator always that, you know, the page isn't good. If the niche has a low saturation point, you know, then that compensates. But in most cases, if a page is being served for more and more and more, Google likes it. We can also look at the relationship between a Google algo update. Obviously, I haven't added all the algo updates. This is a staging environment that you're looking at. This is not a live environment. But basically, if we look, we can see that, you know, over some of the updates, there was an updates previously here where it came up and so forth. But we can look at the relationship between an algo update and shifting queries. So going back here, if we look, this here is this. Okay, side by side. Let's see if I can restore it. Now I'm using Windows 11, which is an absolute pain in the arse to... right, let's do that. Okay. So let's look at the data side by side. Okay, so we just want position 1 to 3. So here you can see the volume of queries. When you see multiple instances, it's because it's between days. Okay, but you can see here, you know, some days we're rocking 200 plus first places, whereas here, you know, it's 30. And we can do the same here, 4 to 10, 4 to 10. Okay, according to Ahrefs, there's a lot more at 4 to 10 than 1 to 3. That's not the case. 11 to 20. Again, 11 to 20 is higher. And that's not the case. But you see what I mean. This is the same principle of data. It's just theirs is scraped data, ours is actual data. And it's not restricted. So this is again a use case for decision making off of the back of actual data. Okay. So fundamentally, let me just very briefly explain this before we go any further with it. Oh, I have to have something selected. Okay. Right. So let's do the logic. If a page is gaining in total queries, that is generally a positive indicator. Now let's talk about the relationship between clicks and queries. A page can grow in queries but generate no clicks. Okay, because let's say a page gets indexed. Okay, that page, once it's indexed, should exhibit growth in queries as Google serves it for more and more. And what we would expect to see is positions 31 to 100 come up and they climb. And then as those positions move from position 31 to 100, let's say loads of keywords jump rank and they go forward, what you're going to expect to see over time, depending on how new or old the article is, you're going to expect these position groups to show what's called transitional performance. So for example, if the total volume of queries is going up, but queries 31 to 100 nosedives, but 21 to 30 rockets, what that means is loads of queries jumped out of a lower position group to a higher position group. So if the queries are going up and they're moving at the same time, that's a positive indicator. That means that page is growing weight. Now, in a lot of niches that require trust, requires the domain to have a certain amount of establishment, what tends to happen is that URLs with really good content may not yield a click for 1 year, 2 years. I've even seen 3 years in cases. But it wasn't that the content wasn't good. It was just the niche, the brand trust, the overall overarching authority wasn't there. So Google valued the page and was serving it, and that query trajectory month on month crept up, but the page didn't generate any clicks. Now, if someone was just to go and look in GSC at the page and go, well, this page is a year old, it's got no clicks, we need to bin it, or, you know, it clearly doesn't work, we need to revamp it. But if you haven't looked at query counts, you might unwittingly do damage to a page that's in growth. Now, let me explain another scenario. Let's say a page, right, has loads of positions at 1 to 3. A Google update comes along, and all of a sudden, let's imagine clicks nosedived. So a page one day went from generating 100 clicks a day to 5 clicks a day. And you panic. You're like, no, you know, my content's been hit, whatever. But in many cases, people don't look. If you look at query counts and your traffic goes, because you know most stuff only generates clicks in position 1 to 3 or 4 to 10, with most of it obviously being 1 to 3. But what can happen is there's two things. There's devaluation and slippage. Okay, so let's say if we look at this page, we know that most of the queries that this page is served for are actually in the top 3. Okay, because all the other position groups are lower. And we can see that. So this is like a peak performing page. If all of a sudden overnight our clicks nosedived, okay, let's say they all dropped off, the first thing I'd be looking is across the position groups to see, did positions 1 to 3 nosedive and then 4 to 10 went up, or 11 to 20 went up, or 21 to 30 went up? If the total volume of queries stays similar, but the positions shift from a high position group to a lower position group, that's slippage. Whereas if all the queries are dropping out, that's devaluation. That means Google no longer sees the value in that content for whatever reason. It could be a lack of helpful content perception, it could be EAT issues, spam issues, there are countless issues. But my point is, query counting is like the ultimate way of properly understanding what's going on. So we could say, you know, if we're working on our URLs, we have our annotations. So if you log an annotation in the GSC interface, that annotation will be available here against this specific URL. So what you can do is you can log your annotation on top of your Search Console data, and it will be in all of the tools. So whenever you select the URLs that you've put the annotations on, they'll be here. So these annotations that are shown are just for the URL that we're looking at. Okay, so this is really good. This is good because, you know, we can then look at the relationship between query counts and the changes that we make. Clicks, as you remember, are the end product of the work. Now, one other thing that will be coming is when we have the final GA4 integration finished, we are going to look at user engagement signals to get an understanding if content is affected because it might not be perceived as helpful. I.e., if you've got a 5,000 page blog and it has an engagement time of 30 seconds, high bounce rate, you know, then it's probably going to be an indicator that it's not very helpful. So the content might be good, but it might not be helpful. And you can visualize that here, and then you can log your annotations here. So we have query intent tool. So what this does is all those queries that we just looked at, this basically uses AI to look at the composition. So when would this be useful? Well, it would be useful if you have product categories or products and you put too much content in a product category and you're creating too much dilution on informational queries. So it might be that, you know, you have too many informational queries. This is easier to look at in a month view. Okay, so we can see that the volume of informational queries has grown. But we can see that there are some commercial queries. We can see navigational queries. And we could see there was a peak in transactional queries, but that's dropped out. So I've seen this a few times, like during core updates, when there's been an intent shift in SERPs. And this is a great way to catch that out if you see that across your articles. And then you can see here all of the trends. So there's a trends table along the bottom. It's extremely hot where I am right now because I'm in a box office and it's like 35 plus degrees in here because it's just, I run everything off of solar energy. I have solar batteries and loads of computer monitors, so it gets very hot in here. So apologies if I look slightly disheveled. Okay, so the next thing is we have a query discovery tool. So basically, again, because we have every single query on your domain, we can take that data and we can do mass intent grouping. Now we are, again, as with anything, we are refining this. This will only get better. But right now, looking at the domain, we can see that for a transactional business, a majority of the domain's click profile is derived from informational queries. Okay, and typically that's not really what we want. We want more commercial, transactional queries. And again, this is where a lot of SEO hyper focuses on, you know, just getting clicks. So we can say to the client, look, we doubled your clicks in the last year. But yeah, that's fine. But if it doesn't turn into transactions, well, it's not really a benefit to the client, is it? So we can see commercial, we can see navigational and transactional here. So what we can do is we can look at a group and then we can click view all. And you can see here we've got over 1,000 informational queries. So we can go through. And again, we've got a lazy search. We can look at commercial. So you can see all of the commercial ones as well. And again, you can export all of this. You can change the time frame as well. So you get an understanding. So you can see here now I've selected last 16 months. So if we look at informational, for example, you can see there's a significant amount. So you've got the ability to go through, and then we also have top queries data. click potential by CTR. So what this allows you to do is basically you can forecast what clicks would look like if you improved CTR. So with a lot of SEO is focused on click growth and constantly improving positions and all the rest of it. But there needs to also be a lot of emphasis to capitalize on pre-existing clicks by working on CTR. And obviously leveraging CTR means obviously title and description rewriting testing, rich results, features, snippets, site links, loads of other things to help with CTR. Now, at the moment, this tool is rigid, but it will become fluid very soon in that it will allow you to specify CTRs. At the minute, it only offers a select few CTRs, but it will be fluid, so you can select 10%, 15%, whatever percentages you want. So basically, we've got our URL here, and the use case for this is that the client might be looking to capitalize further on traffic. So we can see here what day-to-day clicks look like. What would it look like if the CTR was at 5%? So we can see here, and if we switch it to a month view, we can see, you know, November, if we had the 5%, we would have got 2,300 clicks instead of 1.8. In May, we had 1,700 clicks, but we could have had 2,900 clicks if we had a 5% CTR. So again, as with anything, a lot of this tool at the minute is like informational. So I understand there's going to be a need for, okay, this tool is great, but how, you know, okay, so we want to improve CTR. What do we do? And this is the stuff that we're working on at the minute. So we're going to have AI Insights module overlooking all this data, and then we're going to build tools all around this so that each thing that we propose also has an actionable side to it. So that, for example, you know, if we identify that there's massive opportunities in pre-existing pages which consistently have a low CTR, we will use AI to have a look at why there might be potentially low CTRs and then make recommendations to you to improve that. But this is good for forecasting. You know, you might say to a client, look, we're focusing on these 10 pages. We've got the ability to actually get more clicks out of them. This is top level domain query performance. This tool is just very basic at the minute. We've got some plans to add some stuff to it. But basically, this shows the volume of queries with and without clicks. So we could see that in May, 9,200 queries were served with without clicks. 885 of those were with clicks. So it sort of gives a visualization, like what's the gap between the total volume of queries served and how many of those are basically getting clicks. So you've got that. We have the Search Console Keyword Cloud. Now, what is the purpose of this tool? So do you remember back in the day where you would give a tool, a keyword cloud, a URL, and it would scrape the content, and then it would give you a keyword cloud based on basically the old school principle of keyword density, right? Well, think of this as a keyword cloud based on served query density. So this is all off of GSC data. Now let me explain why this is important. Basically, if you have a URL and Google's indexed it and it's serving that URL for queries in Google, okay, that query profile is ultimately going to tell you what Google thinks it's relevant for. Okay, so what we've done is this tool will take whatever URL you give it, and then it will go and get every query for that URL, and then based on the serve frequency of that query, it will work out how prominent that query is. Okay, there's nothing out there that does this at the minute. So if we change it to the last 16 months, so this advantages and disadvantages of Pine Conservatory. The most prominently served query across the entire query profile is Pinewood, because you can see it's the largest ones there. And you can see we've got a few intents mixed in there, okay? But Google just looks at this page as most associated with Pinewood. And if we go down, we have what's called a serve rate. So for example, Pinewood as a query existed in 9.25% of all the queries. So if you had a term, what is Pinewood? How do I buy Pinewood? Is Pinewood good? Pinewood as a query appeared the most prominently in the entire query profile. So what we're doing is we're taking every query and then we're pattern matching at scale to work out the serve rate. And the serve rate gives us the true overall picture of what Google is associating the content with. So basically, we can see here that Google's heavily serving this for Pinewood. And then we can see there, look, Pinewood properties, disadvantages, uses, advantages and disadvantages, advantages. So the top portion of the queries are all around Pinewood properties. So that is what Google is primarily seeing our pages. It's a page about Pinewood properties. Okay, so if we look at this page, okay, we're talking about the advantages and disadvantages, but Google's looking at this as, well, this page is mostly about properties. Okay, so we see here, properties of Pine, advantages, disadvantages, types, advantages. So the main thing here that is being, and by the way, this just to give you a little bit of context. So I did produce this article. It's one of my AI SEO experiments, but you didn't hear that from me, even though it's on a video. Basically, I took a piece of content with AI. I did like multifaceted testing by chopping up loads of AI content and then partial humanization, and it worked really well. But my point is that Google's hooking on to like this, like a small part of the article, and it's then using that to associate the whole thing with properties of Pine. So the keyword cloud is such a powerful tool because it basically is telling us what does Google really think our content is about. And in this case, it's a Pinewood article, but mainly around properties. Properties of Pine, properties of Pine. So that's what this tool can be used for. And then we have the top level query trajectory. So what this basically does is it allows you to view the total query counts. So do you remember earlier we looked at the URL, total query count, and then positions 1 to 3, 4 to 10. Well, this is the same tool, but we show the total queries for each URL. Okay, so if we look, what this allows us to do is basically look at the performance for up to 20 URLs at once in terms of those URLs query counts. Okay, so we can look at the trends in total query counts over time. So we can create a URL group that might be, let's say, client priority pages. And the priority pages for the client are obviously the product. So I'm just going to add those in. I'm only going to do a few just to prove a point. Not entirely sure I'm getting double up there. Okay, so so let's say like we added our key priority group. So then we can select that priority group and then it will just show us the query counts for those pages. So we can see here, for example, there's clearly been a dropout for those pages. So we can see, is that actually because of... Yeah, so we can see in May there was quite a downturn there. But we can see over time, like, you know, we had some growth, then we had a decline. But we can see the trajectory. So we can see that the trajectory for these pages is downwards. So immediately if I'm looking at that, I know that I need to go back and start taking a look at, you know, why these pages in decline, which I'll do that. Obviously doing my auditing and analysis and all the rest of it. So this allows you to basically take the URLs. You can create as many groups as you want. You can create groups for products, blogs, product categories, whatever you fancy, you can create it. Okay. Then we have content NLP tools. So what this allows us to do is basically create an NLP brief, natural language processing. So basically this will take the lead query associated with that page from GSC, or you can take the lead query by impression or click, or you can specify your own query. And you can select your market. If you're in the US or another country, you can select your market. You click create brief and it will go out and it will generate a brief. So that can take a couple of minutes to run. So while we wait for that, I'll show you an earlier one. So I ran one for the Oranges UK homepage. So we can see a search engine understanding score of 13%. We can see an SEO score of 82%. If we click on view brief, we can see here. So this basically highlights where topics are thin or where they might be missing, if there's missing topics. So we can click on missing topics. These are things that could be mentioned, synonyms that could be mentioned in text, depending on obviously how relevant they are to the client. We have SERP analysis. So this gives us a series of weighted metrics. We have keyword data, we have question data, we have content structure, we have a topic chart. So we have all of that data there. We have the editor and more. So this can help you to generate briefs, and then obviously you can adjust your content from there onwards. Now we have real-time content auditing. Real-time content auditing basically looks at your overall domain performance. And the benefit here is that we can look at trends, okay? So the general consensus is that if you have a domain, you're going to want to see a growth in performance URLs, good URLs, and a decline in things like dead URLs. So if we filter back on this, I'm going to change it to a month view. So we can see here, for example, the number of dead URLs on the domain has been going down, which is obviously a positive thing. So if you're operating a site and you're producing content, you're doing all these different things, you need to also be making sure that your index is not accruing dead pages, dead content, or stuff that is dying. So this is what is really good. So you could have this as part of your SEO strategy, to work month on month to reduce URLs in these groupings. And then it will give you a table performance, so we can see opportunity. We can see so we can see as this has gone down, weak URLs have come up. So even though they're classed as weak URLs, it's still progress. And then we've got fair URLs and so forth. So you can go across and see. So we can see like the number of good URLs for the domain has been going up, which is positive. So obviously that's what we want. And then you can click on each of the tabs and it's automatically segmented these URLs for you. So you can see. So you can export all of these as well. If you click Google Sheets, then you can export trends, fair URLs. You can export everything in one go. So you have that. And then you have the ability to filter and do everything else as well. Now we have the weak dead URL discovery tool. This is very basic at the minute, but it will improve. Again, we're going to have an AI insights module that will give you some insights into why these pages might be weak or dead. But this gives you a great quick view to see. So this is in months for some of these. But we can basically see what the content status is and so forth. Again, we can filter. And we can export. So we've got one-click export to dump out all that data out. We have the AI content auditor. So again, as with most of the things in here, by the time you watch this video, depending on how long in the future you watch it, it probably would have evolved by then. So basically, this is like one of the first parts of the tool where we're taking all the GSC data, we're going to take GA4 data, and we're going to blend it in with complex auditing. But basically, you can create an audit for a page. So if we take our advantages and disadvantages page, sorry, bear with me. Sorry about that. My my solar inverter started beeping to basically tell me the battery was dead. So it's me trying to do my eco-friendly part for the environment. I run most of my office stuff completely on solar. So if we take our advantages and disadvantages of Pine Conservatory's page, okay, then we can select the query, we can select the intent. So we've got informational, and then again we can select our market. It will default to the country that you're in, and then we can click apply. Now the differences with our auditing is that we're auditing GSC data. We will be auditing GA4 data to ascertain whether something looks helpful or not by user engagement data. So you can click on this, and then basically, and I have asked the UX team to maybe sort this out a little bit because it can be hard to read, but basically, so how well aligned is the content to the query intent? So the content provides a useful overview of the advantages and disadvantages of using pine wood for conservatories, which is relevant to the keyword properties of pine. However, the alignment with the keyword could be improved by structuring the information more clearly, optimizing it for SEO, and making it more relevant to the user intent. While the content is informative, breaking it down into well-defined sections with headings and ensuring the use of primary and secondary keywords more naturally throughout will help enhance its relevant and user engagement. Now, obviously, we are working on refining this at the minute. I wouldn't expect anything from an AI perspective to tell me to optimize something for SEO, but we are working to improve this. Does the offering cover the end user needs? The content provides comprehensive overview of the properties, advantages and disadvantages of pine wood for conservatories. Includes detailed information on the types of pine wood and its uses in different contexts. However, to enhance the trustworthiness and alignment with end user objectives, the addition of expert opinions, more detailed citations and comparative analysis with other materials could be beneficial. Incorporating real-world case studies, customer testimonials and environmental credentials would also reinforces the content's reliability and relevance. And then you can see here, it will give you like things where you can improve your score. So we can see here, so this actually is a good point. We purposely threw in some low-level grammatical issues to test AI content to see whether grammatical issues would help content be ruled out. So just one of my many experiments. The content is detailed and comprehensive, covering multiple aspects of using pine wood for conservatories. However, the overall readability is hindered by inconsistent grammar, repetitive vocabulary, and a lack of clear separation between different sections. Simplifying sentences and enhancing the structure will improve clarity and ease of reading. So, again, as it stands, this is going to become a lot more comprehensive over the next coming weeks. What this is going to do is it's going to do intent-based auditing, where there's multi-layer segments of those audits, and it will take into consideration everything from UX design, information priority, query coverage, topical coverage, NLP, and loads of other factors. At the moment, this is just in testing. We're just refining it. But this is like one of the tools that will be there, and what there will also be is when there's content decay, this will automatically trigger to start looking at ways that the content could be improved. And then we have a couple of other ones that are just about to roll out. Competitor content audit. So basically, take a look at all of the aspects of competitor content, where those competitors have seen ranking gain. Then we do a topic gap analysis. So we look at things that the content might have that ours does not at intent level. So if it was a commercial competitor with products, we would look at product counts, we would look at reviews, we would look at all of those factors. If it's informational, then we look at the scope of depth of information, as well as the pages that are around that content. And then we have real-time AI chat, we have title tag rewriting, rank admin tools, and so forth. So to provide some other little bits of context as well about things that you could do. So SEO Stack has a team member section, and in here what that allows you to do, and this is really good, if you are, let's say, an agency, okay, and you need to give someone GSE access but you can't do that because you don't want the client to see that you've added another user to their GSC profile. Well, if your client site is in here, because we've already connected over GSC API and we've got the data here, you can sub-delegate without it ever being a problem. So you can invite whoever, and then it will allow you to select, do you want to give them the ability to just look at the GSC data, or do you want to give them the ability to look at GSC data and create annotations? So you can set that permission, and you can invite people to your team. Now, one other thing that I'm going to do very briefly is just explain a couple of other things. And I've just realised off the top of my head that I didn't highlight some other important things. So in SEO Stack, in the Search Console data interface, can't believe I missed this. Under the Pages section, we're going to have various other columns. So we've got other columns coming. At the moment, we have HTTP status that runs on a regular cron to get the data. It's not always going to have the data there, or sometimes you have to wait a couple of minutes and it will show the HTTP status is there. But what I'm going to do is briefly explain a little bit just about some of the functionality coming up very shortly. So one of the key things that we're going to have is GA4 integration. So you can see where you have pages. See where this drop down is? You're going to be able to blend GA4 and GSC data together. So that's going to help us. So with this, what we're going to look to do is we're going to look to bring these data sets together, and then we're going to look at how AI can be used to leverage relationships between page performance, query counts, clicks, average position changes, and then user engagement metrics. So we're going to be looking at how, average time on page. We're going to look at that in proportion to the session. We're going to look at loads of data touch points, and we're going to integrate it into the GSC interface here. Some of the other things that are coming, content groups. So you'll be able to view content groups. So you'll have the ability to create a content group, select that content group, put the URLs in that content group that you care about. So you might have a blog content group. So when you click it and select it, it will automatically apply all of the URLs in that content group or subfolder. And you'll be able to visualize those, which could be really good. So we also have, we have the project management tool. I'll give you a little bit of context about this as well. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this over. And the reason that I'm showing you this, because obviously I'm hoping that a good number of prospective clients that want to sign up or want to better understand not only what is the product, but what is the roadmap. So let me also give you a little bit of context about where we are now. So SEO Stack, as many of you know, was previously a product that I built. It's taken 1.5 years. It worked, but it failed because it was too slow and it was too expensive to use Google BigQuery. We were basically making a loss on every user, so it was not viable as a platform to continue. So I had to scrap the project and start all over again, which is why we're now 3 years in from the point where I first started to today. But the point is that we've done all of the complex architecture now. So the open roadmap is going to be a lot quicker for us to execute. And when you see what's coming, you'll understand why so much effort is going into this and how this is going to revolutionize things for you as an SEO, as a content marketer, as an SEO, whether you're an executive or freelance, wherever you are. So let me explain some of the things that are coming very shortly and why you're going to want to use them. So one of them is the project management tools. So if I explain very basically the logic of a project management tool, maybe I'll show you a typical project management tool. So just bear with me. Okay, so some of you might use Asana, Monday, ClickUp, Notion, Trello. There's loads of project management tools out there that agencies use. They're all over the place, different things, different workflows and all the rest of it. So we use something called Active Collab, which is a fairly mainstream application for project management. But I can tell you now, and unless obviously someone can show me, and if you do know of this, please do message me on LinkedIn and do let me know. But as far as I'm aware, there are no project management tools that integrate with GSC and GA4, as far as I'm aware. So typically in a project, you're going to have your SEO tasks, you're going to have your content writing, you're going to have your link building, you're going to have your user experience optimization, you're going to have your SEO testing, you're going to have all your tasks in there, and you're going to have, you're going to have a head of SEO, you're going to have a head of content, you're going to have all these people doing all of these things, okay? Whether you're in Notion or Trello, it doesn't matter, okay? And you have your tasks. So what we're doing is we're building a project management system in SEO Stack that's like this, where you have your technical tasks. So you might have your tech SEO, you might have your content auditing, you might have your link auditing, your page experience, user behavior, all of this stuff, okay? So we're going to have a project management system that has a whole task system where you can add tasks, you can assign it to people, you can log time, log expenses. We're providing all of that, but integrated with SEO Stack and the annotation system, okay? So when you're doing your work in your task, in the task management section under projects, you're going to have a task manager. As you go about doing your tasks, people are writing content, people are implementing fixes in WordPress or Magento or Shopify. Everything that gets logged, SEO Stack is going to look at what you've done, and it's going to track the impact, and it's going to track and tell you what isn't working. And it will even get down to, if, let's say you've got 10 people in your team, okay, and let's say they're logging tasks, okay, SEO Stack will come back and say to them, I've been tracking this task, it's had a negative impact, you need to review it. Or here are tasks that we clearly correlate with growth. It will track new content performance. When you're telling SEO Stack that you've created new pages, it will then monitor to see, do those pages get indexed? What happens to them? Do they go on to do anything, or do they remain dead? Do they need anything else? So we're bridging that gap. So you'll have project management tasks. So for example, in the project management part of it, not only are we going to have the project tasks and the reporting. So the reporting is going to be the most powerful thing that you've seen. I know people have Looker Studio reports and all of this stuff. Let me tell you now, what we're going to have as reporting is going to leave that behind, because it's going to blend your work with GA4 conversion events or manually specified events, potential impact on revenue or lead volumes in relation to the work that's being done on top of organic visibility. But one of the other things that we're going to do is, I've run an agency since 2007. I've worked in the agency space since 2003. Okay, so I have 21 years of exposure in the agency marketplace. So I know where all the problems are, from work efficiency to cost management. I know where those problems are, and I am building the solution for agency owners and for any business that invests in SEO that has multiple stakeholders involved. So what other areas is SEO Stack going to help you as a business, you as an agency, whatever your position? Well, cost efficiency. So let's say we've got a team of people working on an account, okay? And excuse the funny names. I always, whenever I'm doing these decks, I always put funny names in to see if anyone actually clocks it or picks it up. So, in our orangeries project, okay, let's say we've got various different people doing different things. So I'll tell you what, let's invite some people. So team members, add a person. So I'm going to do, that's not a valid email. So I'm going to have to do a different name. Let's just, doesn't matter, the invite will bounce. But it'll add them to the team so I can use it. Okay, so we've got Elon Musk. We've got James.Bond. Okay. So if I'm James Bond, okay, James Bond has been invited to SEO Stack. When he logs in to add the annotation, he's only going to see his name, okay? But we are going to have user permissions in the future for like different elevations of thing. But at the minute you have account owner or team member. Team members can only interact with their own annotations, but they can see all of them, but they can't edit other people's annotations. Okay, so let's say here, I literally am just putting anything now. So if different people I'm just literally chucking any old junk in there, okay? So let's say in our website project, you've got an SEO, you have 2 writers, you have link builder, digital PR, whatever it is you've got. As these people log their annotations, okay, not only are they going to go into the project management tool, and not only is all the work going to be tracked, so you're going to be able to see, obviously, you know, who did what, on what date, what URL, and all the rest of it. But what we're then going to have is we're going to have a performance dashboard, okay? So in the performance dashboard, you're going to be able to go into, on the left-hand side, you can see here, it says project tasks. That's where all your stuff, all your SEO stuff is going to be listed, your content, your dev, all the rest of it. You're going to have your reporting, which will have insane reporting. It will have brand, non-brand performance, keyword performance for custom content groups. You're going to have impact on GA4, transaction, conversion. You're going to have amazing reporting, right? With a degree of automation to it. And it will also have all your annotations, the outcome of that. But, you know, we'll come back to that. But then you're going to have team performance, okay? And team performance is basically going to be, let's say, I know you're a head of SEO or you're an SEO that's like overseeing the account. You click on team performance and the people that you gave tasks for, you're going to see how much contribution they made to that overall project in terms of how much stuff have they done. So you'll get a visual representation of that. Okay. And then what you're going to get is you're going to get reporting that shows how many annotations that person logged, and how many of the things that they did and are doing are having a positive outcome versus a negative outcome. And then you're going to look at the net click gain they achieved versus clicks lost with a net click output. So are people doing things that look to be having a correlative negative effect over time or a positive effect? Now, as with anything in SEO, there are nuances to this, and we're going to iron all of those out as we go along. But fundamentally, this is going to be able to show you, like, if we had the scenario where you had 5 copywriters in your project, and one of them might consistently produce content that just never ranks. Why? Are they plagiarizing? Are they using AI content with no scope? This will help with all of that. What you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to see also, because remember, we can log expenses against the work that we're doing. So inside SEO Stack, you're going to be able to set project budget monthly. People are going to be able to log all their expenses if you're producing content, whatever it might be that that you're doing. And you'll be able to see against the user how many annotations they did. And bear in mind, there's a date functionality, so you can set it for month, so you can view the performance for month, quarter. But you see how many annotations had a positive or a negative outcome, click outcome, and then you can see the aggregated costs associated with that user. But then we're going to be able to look at, okay, well, if we've been consistently spending on this, what are we getting back? And this is what we're going to do with GA4 integration. So GA4 integration is then going to look at e-com revenue organically, lead volumes organically, and we're going to look at the correlation between spend, performance, and net outcome for the client. So then we'll be able to report on the total output. So in this example, Dwayne Pipe, great name, has consistently under-delivered. Whatever he's doing, it's actually costing clicks, not gaining them. So then it's just a case of looking at why. Okay? So this isn't like a witch hunt. It's not there to say, someone's not doing a good job. It's just there to highlight fundamentally if there is a problem with a resource. You might have a writer that just is not technically competent enough in the area that you're asking them to write content, which could lead to content that's not sufficient to rank. And you will spot that very quickly with this reporting. So you're going to then be able to click on those annotations to see what ones had a positive outcomes, what had positive outcomes, what had negative outcomes, and then we're going to use AI to produce an overarching summary looking at the annotations to say, from all the 20 annotations that demonstrate a positive outcome, here are the correlating trends across all of them that you can apply to your wider site. Then you're going to be able to view the annotations by type. So what annotations had, had a net positive click outcome or a net negative click outcome. So we're basically going to make it so that you can look at team performance and you can account for every pound spent and is what you're doing worth the money. Now that's only one part of a massive roadmap to come. We have loads of other stuff. I'm going to have to finish up now because we are an hour and 40 minutes in. But I hope this has given you some scope. And again, like 3 months from now, we'll have like a whole bunch of new functionality. Up here, for example, we've got settings, so we've got the ability help, so we're going to provide help for each tool. You've got the ability to pause your subscription, upgrade your subscription, so you can change, you can pause your plan, you can cancel and delete your data. There's third-party keys, so you can provide your own keys in here if you want to pull that data in, and loads more. So I hope you've found this to be useful, insightful, and I welcome you to come and join SEO Stack. From one SEO to another SEO. All I can tell you is that this is going to be the tool that moving forwards should become a part of your SEO strategy, and alongside it I'm going to provide a series of webinars, SEO Academy, so that when you're doing things you get the absolute best out of this tool and you obviously experience growth and ROI for your clients or your own in-house business. My name is Daniel Foley Carter. If you would like to learn a little bit more about me or my offerings, I have to do this at the end of each video. If you go to Google, at least in the UK, and you Google SEO audits, you'll see I am number 1. And on my site, I have a 40-hour SEO webinar bundle teaching you all the things I know about SEO. There's loads. So there's 40 hours of video about user intent, SEO strategies, using Search Console, SEO side hustles. Everything is in here. So if you haven't checked out my webinars, do let me know. SEO Stack is about to go live. I look forward to seeing you.